Support for your voice, Addicted, comes from Edison State College with campuses in Lee, Collier, Charlotte counties, and a center serving Hendry and Glades. Edison State College. Discover your genius.
In the pre-dawn hours of June 9th, 2010, teams of Lee County Sheriff's officers gathered for a briefing at a quiet park in North Fort Myers.
Today we're going to be doing an operation. The pills unit named it Bad Image. It's for fraudulent MRIs, people that are passing fake MRIs to obtain prescription pills. Each team will have a team leader. The team leader will have a packet that has everybody's name in it that they're looking for, an address, or maybe 2 addresses, a picture of the property, and any cautions if they've been arrested for anything violent.
Then, armed with arrest warrants, they fanned out across southwest Florida. Their targets, 41 men and women accused of using fraudulent MRIs to obtain prescription drugs. Operation Bad Image was underway.
One of the best feelings that you can get until you realize it owns you. Till you wake up one morning and don't feel like using it until your body tells you you need to. Till you can't sleep. You don't know what office of your body something's going to come out of next at the same time because your body is so sick. Loss of weight, morals, values. You're bankrupt emotionally, spiritually. Money, gone. It's gone.
When you last saw your good friend lying on the pavement with the misery.
Ah, South Florida, sparkling beaches, radiant sunshine, a laid-back tropical lifestyle. And drugs. A tidal wave of drugs with the power to destroy your body, steal your soul, and snuff out your life. Over the past few years, the Sunshine State has spawned and nurtured a new billion-dollar industry, one the chambers of commerce don't brag about, one that has flown largely under the public's radar. It is the distribution, sale, and exportation of prescription drugs, drugs more powerful, more addicting, more deadly than any that have come before.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small. And the one...
It is an unseen epidemic that is raging unchecked across the land, and South Florida is at the epicenter.
Florida has become the pill supplier, prescription supplier for most of the eastern part of the United States and probably even further out toward the west. If you talk to police officers in places like Tennessee, North Carolina, which I've talked to, they said in Kentucky, if it hadn't been for Florida, they wouldn't have a drug problem. You know, we are supplying all of the drugs to those states.
Prescription drugs are far and away our worst drug problem. They are our most significant drug problem in Florida. They pose a major public health challenge and a public safety challenge. They are the top killers of our citizens, prescription drugs. The illegal use, abuse, diversion of those drugs.
They'll hit 10 pain clinics along the coast and they'll go home with 1,000 pills and head back to where they came from and distribute them. I think Florida owes an apology to a lot of those other states because they've been pretty good at combating it and we have not.
But this is not the coke-laced Miami Vice world of Sonny Crockett or the gangster rap rhythms of the street crack dealers. No, in today's Florida, the new drug dealers are more likely to wear white lab coats and hang medical school diplomas on their walls.
To some degree, this type of drug dealing has fallen under the public radar because it's not being perpetrated by drug cartels or drug dealers on the streets, and there's no shootings and there's no glamorous seizures of thousands of kilos of cocaine coming in the border. This type of drug dealing is being done by the people we trust the most, doctors and pharmacists. It's absolute legalized drug dealing, and they're finding every loophole they can to distribute as many pills as they can to as many people as they can for the sole purpose of making a lot of money.
We all like to believe that our doctors are good, and most of them are. I got to say that 3 times. Most of them are, most of them are, most of them are. But there's a small percentage that are drug dealers in white coats, and they do such damage that it's tremendous damage they do to the communities and to people. And they bring bad reputation on the rest of the doctors.
Greed and the motive of capitalism gone amok. We have people making literally thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars right now in the state of Florida, simply issuing prescriptions. Florida has, out of the top 50 doctors prescribing painkillers in the nation, 48 of them are in Florida.
Like any social or cultural phenomenon, drug abuse is an evolutionary process subject to trends and fads and economic moods. In the freewheeling 1960s, marijuana and hallucinogens like LSD were the rage as the counterculture generation pushed the boundaries that society had set. When cash flowed freely during the dot-com 80s, cocaine became the drug of choice. But then a new scourge arrived on the scene, one that was cheap, plentiful, and addictive.
Then in the mid-80s, crack cocaine showed up, freebase cocaine, and it took the world by storm. It was the newest, latest, greatest, and it was so highly addictive, and so it destroyed lives, it destroyed families. People were hawking their mother's televisions and stealing their parents' cars and trading them for 4 rocks of cocaine.
This drug user's journey to addiction carried him down the same historic path, but compressed the time frame from decades to a few short, destructive years. In the process, costing his family thousands of dollars, 2 homes, a car, and countless hours of anguish.
I've used just about everything from A to Z. Starting with marijuana, it went right to hallucinogenics such as mushrooms, acid, mescaline, angel dust, to cocaine, then to crack cocaine, to heroin and any prescription drug that you can find in your medicine chest.
It is the latter, the prescription pills, that have set the drug world on its ear and sent the law enforcement community scrambling to keep up.
Today, it's the pills. And the pills put both crack and meth like they're little brothers. It just puts them to shame. We have way more crime relating to the pills, way more deaths relating to the pills than we ever had with crack cocaine in the 80s.
It's easier to find prescription drugs than it is for a kid to purchase marijuana or have someone go into a liquor store and buy them a 6-pack or a bottle of Mad Dog 2020.
Prescription drug abuse has claimed some high-profile victims. Southwest Florida's own Mindy McCready was a one-time country music chart climber. Her very public struggle with addiction has her mother frightened that she could become another statistic.
One of the reasons is I've seen devastation in her life. I've seen that these drugs have cost her her home. They've cost her all the, people think she has millions of dollars because of where she is. They've cost her her money. She's made decisions in her life that are devastating decisions, that you would never have made these choices if you were sober. So I'm so heartbroken, and yet I still have hope.
Right beside me, when we were king and queen.
There's not a family in America that hasn't been touched by addiction. I haven't found one yet. An aunt, an uncle, a mother, a sister, a brother, a mom, a dad, grandma.
By all accounts, this new drug era was born on Florida's southeast coast.
The worst are actually the east coast of Florida, Broward County and Miami-Dade and Palm Beach County. The vast, overwhelming majority of the pills that were being distributed in the nation were coming out of the same 4 pain clinics in Broward County.
Before long, the pill craze crept across the peninsula and into southwest Florida, with a proliferation of so-called pill mills, often masquerading as legitimate pain management clinics.
Pill mills are nothing more than clinics, normally pain clinics, pain management clinics is the way they're advertised, who give drugs for cash. Folks who come in there normally do not have any medical condition that requires pain-killing drugs. They are at some point addicted to drugs or are getting them not only for themselves but to sell to others and so that they can abuse them.
Here in Lee County, it's estimated we have 5 people die every week as a result of prescription drug abuse and overdoses. That's a crisis. If that was a crime, there'd be people up in the streets. If that was an issue around burglaries, we'd be alarmed. But the fact that people are dying due to prescription drug abuse seems to slip by everybody's attention.
When you lose 6 people per day in Florida for prescription drugs overdoses, to prescription drug overdoses, that is a heck of a toll. If you were a military commander and you came up with that kind of casualty rate, you might not have your job the next day.
You would be amazed by the amount of people that are frequenting pain management clinics throughout the state and Lee County here alone. You figure on average $200 to $250 a visit in cash each day, and you add that up times 100 patients that are going in there getting prescribed unbelievable amounts of highly addictive narcotics.
The prescription drug plague caught law enforcement officers off guard, forcing them to develop new weapons and new strategies to combat it. For these were not run-of-the-mill street thugs who were distributing the drugs and reaping the huge profits.
I've been in law enforcement in Southwest Florida for almost 30 years. And I worked in undercover drugs, I worked in drug enforcement units. I've battled the drug dealer on the street, the cocaine dealer, the heroin dealer. We seized boatloads of marijuanas and trainloads of cocaines, and you expect that fight. I never thought in my career I'd be fighting doctors, and that they would be worse than the drug dealers I met on the street.
The majority of physicians are upstanding Floridians that have the patient's best interests at heart. There are some who abuse their power, and they need to be stopped.
At the crux of the problem is the sacrosanct relationship between a physician and his patient.
You understand that this is a collusion, a collaboration, a conspiracy between doctors and their patients. If you go to the doctor, he's going to say, I was just doing my job. And the patient says, I was in pain. And so you have nothing.
Medical personnel, hospitals, cannot deny somebody if they complain of a pain issue. They cannot deny them medication. They cannot. And so it's legal, immoral.
Basically, when a doctor prescribes roxicodone or oxycodone for a particular injuries, that's up to what the doctor prescribes now. We have no control over what the doctor can prescribe or how much they can prescribe right now.
Over the past few years, the Florida legislature began grappling with the crisis. First with a law setting up a monitoring system and a central registry where doctors and pharmacists could see if their patients were doctor shopping, getting drugs from multiple sources. But the lawmakers left out one important component.
Unfortunately, our legislature, while they passed the law, chose not to fund it. And frankly, that's nearly criminal on their behalf, because the reality is passing a law without funding is a paper tiger. There's nothing to it.
The problem is that went into effect over a year ago. When it was signed into effect by Governor Christ, the only thing that wasn't signed into effect was the money to cover the program, and it's going to cost over $1 million. The $1 million has to come from private sources or donations.
A new state law in 2010 took aim at what many consider to be the heart of the problem, the pain clinics. State Representative Joseph Abruzzo, who represents parts of Palm Beach County where the problem originated and co-sponsored the bill, says there are 3 key elements to that law.
Number one, you have to be a licensed physician to own and operate these pain clinics. You can actually be a convicted felon at the current time. Secondly, it puts a 72 hours dispensing ban on these pain clinics, meaning you cannot come in anymore and pick up hundreds, if not thousands of pills.
But this new breed of drug dealer is nothing if not resourceful, and it didn't take long to find a loophole. Simply charge a flat fee.
Within the 72 hours dispensing ban, there's nothing that says one of these physicians can't charge X amount of dollars, thousands of dollars, for example, for a visit, and then give away pills for free. So we need to make sure that that loophole is closed.
They run value meals, we'll call them, where you can go and get yourself an MRI and a doctor visit for $400. That's a package deal. And if you don't have the money, certain people will pay for you to go. And when you go, you've got to give that person all your pills because he's now set you up with an MRI and a doctor for you to go to. And then the next time you can keep them for yourself. It's a racket.
They'll take MRIs from, and then they'll also see you for a cash-only visit, and then they'll prescribe you or dispense your medication on scene, and then you get to leave there with your legal prescription.
Got pain? Next 50 callers get a free exam.
The new law also cracks down on the way pain clinics are advertised and drugs marketed.
We beat any competitor's pricing. Lowest price meds, same day dispensing.
If you've ever seen on some of the newspaper publications, the back 20 pages or so are flooded with advertisement peddling these drugs. You cannot do that under this legislation.
As creative as the dealers are in finding loopholes in the law, users too keep finding new ways to get high on pills.
They can be snorted, or they can be used intravenously, injected into your veins, or there's a new form of what they call smoking the boat, where it's put on aluminum foil and melted down, and it runs down the aluminum foil and they suck up the smoke that comes off the pill as it's melting down.
These creative techniques get the drugs into the bloodstream faster and hasten the high, but they come at a substantial risk.
Anyone who gets a prescription and doesn't follow it, just like it's written, is really, it's a dangerous game to be playing. So, you know, especially when we're talking about narcotics, it's extremely dangerous.
Today, the Centers for Disease Control announced that the 2009 National Youth Risk Behavior Survey found that 1 in 5 high school students in the United States have taken a prescription drug, such as OxyContin, Percocet, Vicodin, Adderall, Ritalin, or Xanax, without a doctor's prescription.
The prescription pill onslaught brought big changes. The face of the user changed. Treatment centers became clogged with pill addicts. More traditional alcoholics were put on waiting lists. But the bottom line didn't change. Pills are an equal opportunity killer that doesn't respect generational or socioeconomic boundaries.
Prescription drug abuse has become the #1 issue here in Southwest Florida, as well as our nation, over the past 5 years. And it's been a dramatic shift. As an organization founded in 1980, our primary patient was an adult male with alcohol problems, usually 40 to 50 years old. Today, if you look in our adult detox unit, 70% of our patients will be in their 20s, and their addiction will be to prescription painkillers, which is a much more difficult addiction for them to deal with.
That mentality that the young person has of, I'm invincible, no, you're not. There's 5 people dying, overdosing, just in our community on prescription drugs a week. Who knows if next week it's you?
Did the research to find out who was dying from these pills with the medical examiner here in Lee County. Last year, in 2009, we had 89 overdose deaths. Of those deaths, nobody was under the age of 18 last year. So it's anywhere from 18 to 40 years old that's overdosing from these pills.
This is not just a young people's thing. And people, you know, those are the ones that get the media attention. When an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old dies of an overdose, it's in the newspaper. When a 35-year-old dies of an overdose, nobody knows about it, just them and their doctors.
Such a wide variety, from 14-year-old children all the way on up to your grandfather. Drugs have no prejudice. They don't care who they attack. They don't care what they do to you. They're going to drain you of absolutely everything you have,
People who would never ever have thought about using illicit drugs are finding themselves with a drug problem today.
What makes this new wave of pharmaceuticals so addictive, so alluring, so deadly?
There's synthetic heroin, and we knew heroin. One of the problems with opiates can actually make long-term or irreversible changes in a person's brain chemistry. They're very powerfully addictive. As people become dependent on those, their brain really screams out they need to use them again, and may scream it out for a long period of time. They take 6 to 18 months if their brain can stabilize. If a person's used them for over a year, they may have irreversible changes in their brain chemistry.
They are very habit forming in circumstances where they shouldn't be used. They're very dangerous. Just to give you an idea, there were 5,000 drug-related deaths in the state of Florida in 2009. 80% of those were prescription drug abuse related types of drug deaths.
Because they're prescription pills, because they're pharmaceutical products, some people see them as less dangerous.
Unfortunately, the mixture of some of the combination of those pills alone or the mixture of alcohol with some of them will shut down the respiratory system. So you could take just a few pills, and if you mix ethyl alcohol with it, then it'll shut down your respiratory system. You feel tired. A lot of times they'll say they're going to go lay down and they just never wake up.
They're going to put you to sleep, make you, drowsy, a little dizzy, and then out of nowhere your lungs stop working. So you're out of it. You can't scream and holler for help, and you just take a nap, and while you're asleep, you die.
If I don't stop, I probably won't be here for another couple months. 6 months maybe is what the last doctor told me.
Someone should call his parents, a sister or a brother, and they'll come to take him back home on a bus. But he'll always be a problem to his poor and puzzled mother, and he'll always be another one of us.
Many times we thought we'd lose him either to the streets and even worse, to death. We never knew when that phone call would come, if he wasn't home, if the phone would ring. We didn't know. We were afraid to answer the phone. Many times we feared we'd lose him.
There was many times when I thought we might lose him that I could tell he was on something. So I would stay in the bedroom while he slept. You go and you see if he's breathing. You watch to see if his stomach moves. You're afraid to go to sleep yourself.
Just today I received an email from a family member, from someone who's in care, and who said, Kevin, you need to understand that as a family member who's desperate and hopeless, I slept well last night because my brother was able to be in care with you.
It's caused complete devastation, alienation of family, loss of trust, loss of communication. You name it, it's done it. It destroys your life entirely. Not just the addicts, the entire family.
When Operation Bad Image wrapped up, 22 suspects were in custody. 4 more subsequently turned themselves in. Some were cooperating with authorities, others clammed up.
They were charged with attempting to obtain prescription by fraud and uttering of a forged instrument. Being that the MRI was a false document, they uttered it as a true document. That was a felony in the state of Florida. So if convicted, these people could face anywhere from a probation sentence up to a 5-year sentence. Yeah, this deal here on this amount of pills, there's over 18 grams. That's more than 4 times the trafficking amount, which is the 3-year minimum mandatory. This amount of pills right here will carry between, depending on the weight, a 15-year or 25-year minimum mandatory prison sentence if convicted.
Why take that chance? For some, it's to feed a habit, but for others, perhaps most, it's the easy money.
Some of them are addicted. They'll use the pain medication to fix their addiction and then sell the rest. A bottle, just say if you got a bottle of 30 roxycodone and you paid $300 for that bottle, you could turn around and sell those and make almost $3,000 off that bottle alone. So the profit is huge.
The sheriff's office said between them, those 41 target suspects had acquired 59,429 pills, mostly roxycodone and Xanax. Those 59,429 pills break down to about 1,450 pills each, with a total street value estimated at more than $600,000. Operation Bad Image didn't make much of a dent in Southwest Florida's prescription drug crisis, but Reeves said it did send a message.
I don't believe the operation solved our problem. Did it put a lot of people on notice and scare a lot of people? Yes, probably. Not only from the bad guys themselves, but probably some of the imaging companies, some of the pain management clinics now see that we have a serious stance on this problem here with the Lee County Sheriff's Office and are joining forces with law enforcement agencies all over the state of Florida. We're not going to tolerate it.
But the unanswered question remains. How many more will die?
Did you say saw your good friend fly and go? Die slow, fly and go.
I know several people who have died due to prescription overdoses. There's several nights that I've gotten high and thought to myself that I did it this time. I don't know if I'm going to wake up. And the desperation that I've gone through at certain points of my addiction, it was almost welcomed. It was almost welcomed because when I laid my head down at night, I was already thinking of the next day and how I was going to get that next pill and that next high and who I was going to have to hurt, whether it was my family, a friend, or somebody I didn't know, to get it, because that's where it brings you to. I myself, without drugs in my system, will give you the shirt off my back. And once I'm physically and actively in addiction, you'll be lucky if that's all I leave you with on yours.
As parents, don't deny it. Don't go into denial. You're going to see the signs. You're going to know the signs. You can't ignore them. They're there. And the other thing I can say is don't give up on your kid. No matter how hard it gets, you just can't.
Support for your voice, Addicted, comes from Edison State College with campuses in Lee, Collier, Charlotte counties, and a center serving Hendry and Glades. Edison State College. Discover your genius.